Good to see you too.
How have you been?
Not great. I've been having mood swings lately. Real problem with that. My problem solving and math skills are just not good. I'm having loss of vision at certain points. And my tremors, like they're getting real bad.
Very interesting. Let me just review your chart so we can see if everything's correct here. So, we have Mr. Rudolph Jingles, 65 years old, never had any history of neurological disorders or disorders in the family, no cancer history in the family. The only surgery you've ever had is getting your tonsils taken out, vitals were all good, and no medication changes, correct?
It's all correct.
Well, let me check your reflexes really quickly.
Okay. What are you doing?
Very interesting. Your reflexes seem to be abnormal. Well, I have a suspicion here, but let's run a few tests just to be sure. I'm going to put you down for a spinal tap and an EEG. I'll come back once we've gotten the results. Hey there, Mr. Jingles. I'm afraid I have some bad news. I believe you may have Creutzfeldt-Jakob. It's a degenerative and fatal brain disorder. There are 3 different types of CJD: sporadic, which is the most common form, hereditary, and acquired. Acquired is much more rare and known as CJD variant. In this case, you would have to have been exposed to beef that had bovine spongiform encephalopathy, or more commonly known as mad cow disease. The disease would have to have been transmitted to your nervous tissue in the instance of a bad medical operation or something along those lines. There are still many unknowns about acquired Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, also known as variant Creutzfeldt-Jakob. There have been many reported cases of humans contracting Creutzfeldt-Jakob after consuming cows which have been affected by bovine spongiform encephalopathy. This is mad cow disease and is also in the transmissible spongiform disease category, along with Creutzfeldt-Jakob and many other diseases. In addition, there was much cultural reform in 1960 where eating humans were traditional, such as in Papua New Guinea. It was found that if a human ate the brain of another human who had come into contact with prions and was infected, then they too would become infected, and the prions had some way of passing through the digestive system and the blood-brain barrier to reach the central nervous system. There, they would bore holes into the brain and destroy the nervous system, very similar to the way Creutzfeldt-Jakob does. Additionally, there have also been a few reported cases of people contracting the illness from improper sanitation of medical instruments. During a procedure, if a contaminated instrument has touched contaminated tissue, for example, that of a sheep or cow, and then comes back into contact with the person through their blood or other bodily fluids, the prions of the infected animal can be transmitted to the human. Thus, whatever spongiform disease the animal had can be transmitted to the human and will affect them. Though these instances are very rare nowadays, they still happen, mostly in third world countries where unfortunately everyone does not have access to ready and proper sanitized medical equipment. So since you've only had one surgery and it was in a well-established hospital in the United States, I believe you may have sporadic CJD.
Oh goodness. Are you sure it's CJD?
There are no tests other than a post-mortem brain biopsy to confirm CJD 100%. Symptoms, however, are a big hint, and there are tests that can be done which give you strong evidence that the disease is present, such as the 3 performed on you. First, the reflex test was done, which was abnormal. Then the EEG showed a particular wavelength strongly associated with CJD patients. And finally, the spinal tap. In the spinal tap, 14-3-3 proteins were found in high concentrations in your cerebrospinal fluid. These proteins are indicative of a rapid destruction of the central nervous system and are involved in the regulation of protein phosphorylation pathways and mitogen-activated protein kinase pathways. All of these signs and symptoms point directly at CJD.
So what is that going to do to me, and how's that going to affect my family?
Well, with the high concentration of 14-3-3 proteins in your spinal tap, that suggests a large concentration of prions in your central nervous system. The disease is thought to be caused by a mutation which causes these prions. So in a normal functioning brain, there are many prion proteins. These proteins normally function on the membrane as glycoproteins, which perform integral tasks for the cell, such as regulating membrane protein transportation, cell adhesion, cell wall synthesis, and cell surface protection. These prion proteins are encoded by a gene on chromosome 20. However, this encoded protein contains a highly unstable region of 5 tandem octopeptide repeats. Thus, when there is even a slight mutation on chromosome 20, it can cause the creation of a mutant prion protein, which is known as a prion. These prions are not living organisms, but infectious protein agents and immediately begin to multiply and begin to destroy nervous tissue. This type of gene mutation has also been associated with other transmissible spongiform diseases and neurological diseases such as fatal familial insomnia and Gertzmann-Straussler disease. What will happen is the prions tend to aggregate and form clumps in the nervous tissue. These aggregates are known as amyloids and will eventually lead to amyloidosis. At this point, the clumping of prions in the nervous tissue is too much for the brain to continue proper function. Your brain will begin to look like this. This is what CJD does to the brain tissue. Its trademark is the many holes you see in the sample, giving it the spongy look, hence it being classified as a transmissible spongiform disease. On a closer scale, what's really happening is that the prions form rounded aggregates on the surface of the cell, both squeezing the cell as well as disrupting the membrane function. Then large vacuoles form, known as florid plaques, around the aggregates. This is what creates the holes. This disruption in membrane function and creation of holes in the tissue is what is believed to destroy the brain, cause brain shrinkage, and eventually cause death. A lot is still unknown about the disease and about prions in general. It is unknown why these prions aggregate like they do, or what causes the holes to form, or even how to destroy prions. Research is continually being done to discover more about the physiology of the disease. However, what we do know is that you will continue to have worse and worse muscle tremors, your vision will continue to decline, your memory will continue to decline, and eventually you will go into a coma and die because your nervous system cannot even maintain the homeostatic functions anymore. You will need to be placed in hospice and seek round-the-clock care. There's not much I can do, however I can prescribe you clonazepam. This is a benzodiazepine and will help ease the muscle tremors, also known as myoclonus. It works by exciting GABAergic neurons, which increase the output of GABA. GABA is the main inhibitory neuron in the brain, thus it has a calming effect and reduces the excitability of the neurons that cause the tremors. Again, I'm terribly sorry about this diagnosis, Mr. Jingles. I'll have your prescription right up and we can come up to the front and get a lollipop if you want.
That'd be great.
Whoa, what are you doing? Why are you pouring salt in your juice?
It's great. I was adding sugar. It's
Now. Mr. Jingles got diagnosed with Creutzfeldt-Jakob today. I don't know if he's told you yet. You're his son, right?
Yes, ma'am.
He's going to have a lot of trouble with vision, so he might have thought that this was sugar, and also with basic problem solving. So in some form of his mind, he thought that salt would make his drink sweet.
Oh my goodness, well thank you for letting me know that.
You're welcome. He's going to be needing to be placed under hospice and watched all the time from now on. He's going to be having a lot of issues, and eventually won't even be able to speak or stand up or walk or talk for himself.
Oh no.
It's a time to make Mr. Jingles feel comfortable and loved. And I've also prescribed him some clonazepam for his muscle tremors, which are also called myoclonus. You'll notice that they'll keep getting worse and worse as the disease progresses.
Okay.
Also, because you're his son, you might want to get tested for the gene, because it is a hereditary form. So because he was the first in his generation to have the mutation, you could also have a 50% chance of having the mutation.